Let's return to where I began in this edition today, and I spoke about this outrageous quiz being used by a history teacher at a Seattle high school to teach teenagers in grade 10 about the difference between gender and sex. Women aren't the only ones who can be pregnant, we're hearing, and men aren't the only ones with a penis, according to the teacher. And a male student was marked down accordingly. Let's bring in Sally Grover on this. Sally is a women's rights campaigner, the creator of women's chat site The Giggle, and a former Hollywood scriptwriter. Sally Grover, welcome back to TNT Radio.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so cool, this new format, because now I can see you.
Yes, I can see you for the first time. It's great.
I'm usually just talking into my phones. This is lovely.
Yeah, it is. It looks like the woke gender identity culture has not only been pushed into schools, but this could be part of the curriculum. If a history teacher can teach this stuff in an ethnic class, where else is it being taught?
Well, I mean, it's terrifying, isn't it? Because, you're young, someone in authority tells you something, and so you think, well, that must be true. Like a teacher's telling you this, and it's not true at all. I mean, we all know this, but gender ideology is in everything. It's in the curriculum, it's in institutions, it's in government, it's in law. It's been spreading for, over a decade, and we're only now, everyone's starting to realize it and the extent of it and the damage that it's been done. And it's terrifying. And we really have to do everything we can to stop it, because it is saying ludicrous things and getting people to believe them. And if you can get people to believe that women have penises and men can get pregnant, you can get them to believe absolutely anything. And so it's disastrous for society as a whole. Like, it is literally that serious.
Yeah, these kids are so suggestible at the age in which they're being taught this stuff. And these cases only come to light, Sally, because a parent decides, I'm going to ring my local Fox News channel or my local radio station, which is what this woman did, who's anonymous, to alert the media about how her son was treated in this quiz, and then with other teachers as well. It is scary to think that, what about all the parents who don't want the national coverage, that don't want people like us talking about their family and how their child was taught in school? And it makes you wonder how much more of this is going on.
Without a doubt. I mean, I know from my own experience how hard it is to actually get media attention for this issue. Like back in 2020, when I was first alerted to it, I went to all Australian media going, oh my God, I'm sort of under attack from these men claiming to be women. And no one would speak to me. It took, I think, about 10 months, and finally Sky News put me on the air. And it was a long 10 months of me begging absolutely everyone. And I've got the receipts. I mean, ABC has never, ever responded to an email from me.
And this is because mainstream media is like the rest of society, seemingly sensitive about upsetting minorities.
I think they're completely captured by this. I think that there's lots of different theories as to why they would be in on this. I think that a lot of the people who believe that this stuff and want it to be true have gone into media. So they continue to push it, and it's their worldview.
It's their way of being an activist, but having a job at the same time. And this brings me to the importance of your legal case. The now famous Tickle versus Giggle is the first case in the world to legally test what is a woman. Where are we up to with your fundraising? Is it enough to get through all of this? Because lawyers aren't cheap. And how's the case shaping?
So lawyers definitely are not cheap, but my legal team is brilliant, and just worth every penny. So we've raised just over $190,000 so far for what will be for federal court $500,000. We've got $300,000 left to raise. So gigglecrowdfund.com is where anyone can find out more information about the case and support it. And where it's at is, so basically we are the first major case in a major court in the world to test what is a woman. And that is because the Tickle v. Giggle case directly addresses the conflict of gender identity and biological sex. We've got a man who claims to be a woman and a woman who says he's not one, and that no man can be a woman. And so it's, will the law step in and force somebody to believe that a man is a woman? Does gender identity supersede sex in law? And the law in our case that is under the microscope is the Sex Discrimination Act. So you would think it would just be so obvious that, of course, sex.
Lay down misère.
Discrimination Act. But because in 2013 they put gender identity into it, they did, and it was an amendment to put it in there. It's completely muddled the law. And it's not that it's never been caused a problem in the last 10 years. It's caused many, many problems. But we are the first one to actually stand our ground and not give into it, and are willing to go all the way with it. And so the Australian Human Rights Commission has intervened in our case as amicus curiae. And they say that a man is a woman. They say that human beings can change sex. They say that biological sex is not binary. I mean, it's complete and utter lies. It's nonsense. And so, I mean, that's basically their legal argument. And our legal argument is...
So if you win, you create what would be and could be used as an international precedent in this area.
Yeah, exactly. So if we win in federal court, it will be a very good precedent that sex has substance in the Sex Discrimination Act, that a woman's an adult human female spaces in sport are all perfectly fine. If we were to lose in federal court, we would take it to the High Court. If we got it to the High Court and won there, it would basically create a very strong suggestion for legislators to actually remove gender identity from the Sex Discrimination Act. And then the ripple effect worldwide, because all of the court cases that are happening with gender ideology do have a ripple effect worldwide. And so, it would help everybody. And
it would help schools. I know that the UK has still not laid down a proper template in this regard, although schools have been screaming about it from July. How do we deal with this issue? So it would actually sort that area out. And that is the most sensitive area when it comes to transgender identity politics, because we don't want it targeting our children, do we?
Without a doubt. I mean, children are being used as pawns, I think, in a really evil game to justify these nonsensical identities of adults and these very innocent, often very confused children and distressed. I mean, I'm not denying that some of these children aren't utterly distressed and they need help, but telling them that they are born in the wrong body and performing unnecessary surgeries on them is not the help that they need. I mean, this should be a no-brainer.
No, and this brings me to Australia's leading psychology body. It has finally said that gender-affirming care is not a good idea. That is music to our ears, of course, because the experimentation that has been taking place has done so much damage. We're starting to see court cases throughout the United States of those who were encouraged by clinics to transition, and now they're coming back to sue the pants off the clinic and the physician.
Yeah, I think that it's very clear that the demographic of people who are going to end the capture of gender ideology are detransitioners. And these are people who have transitioned and then realize that it was the biggest mistake of their life. And then they want to go after the people who did it to them, which is psychologists, psychiatrists, and doctors in general. And so in Australia, Dr. Gillian Spencer, a psychologist, is one of the first to speak up and say that, just normal talk therapy of helping these kids and talking them through and staying in reality is what is needed. And she has been punished for that, but sort of her bravery of speaking up has encouraged more people to. And hopefully it is actually the change that really starts in Australia and that we can protect more young people and older people as well, because there are lots of sort of people in their 20s and 30s who are vulnerable and are distressed and have been caught up in this, and they shouldn't be forgotten either. But certainly children really do need to be protected.
It's interesting. Mr. Ted has contributed to this conversation on our chat box on tntradio.live, and Mr. Ted says, to know or check if they are male or female, it's easy. Just check their chromosomes.
Basically, yes, that's what it does come down to. But I mean, you don't even have to do that. I mean, anyone watching us right now, they know which one is female and which one is male. It is actually like the most basic evolutionary skill. And by looking just at somebody, the only thing you can actually tell for sure is someone's biological sex. Like you can't know for sure what either of our ages are or our religious status, political affiliations, economic status, anything. All you can tell for certain is someone's biological sex. So this ideology is making people question what they can see with their own eyes.
Now, you must have had a wry smile on your face when two men took the premiership and the deputy premiership of the Queensland Labor government, because it was Shannon Fentiman, Queensland's Minister for Women, who, of course, decided that Queensland needed massive gender fluidity, didn't she?
Yeah, well, she's the Minister for Women who brought self-ID laws into Queensland.
That's right.
And has been vying to be sort of the leader of the state for a while now. I think quite clear that that's what her goal was. And she has not been picked. And it is quite amazing that it was two men picked over her. And for someone who won't even define what a woman is, she's not going to be able to complain about this.
No, not in the Labor Party.
I'm very happy because when, this is a woman who has refused to meet with me and like countless other Queensland women, like her constituents, about our concerns with the law. And so from my perspective, she's actually just not good at her job. Yeah.
Last one. Tell my audience about how the ABC published a story which was celebrating how much a young girl hated her body and she's now pretending to be a boy. What's there to celebrate about that?
It was so heartbreaking. I think it was yesterday that the ABC brought this article out, and it was this like gorgeous young girl who was saying how much she hates. It was told in the first person how much she hates her body, and sort of wants to rip at her own skin. But when she is called a he, and when she has a breast binder on, then she can cope, and she has moments of what's called gender euphoria, which is sort of a made up term, but something that obviously has at least the illusion of being felt. And you're just reading it going, at no point would have thought that the ABC would ever, have stories of praise of like, a young girl experiencing anorexia or cutting or any of the other horrible social contagions and really dangerous issues that young girls especially do have with their bodies. But here they are celebrating this and packaging it to other young people and saying that this is normal. It's not normal.
No.
They're not boys. These are young girls. And it is so insanely irresponsible of the ABC. And I mean, on this issue, they are all in. I mean, like the Australian Human Rights Commission, I mean, government funded agencies in Australia are all in.
It's just pitiful. You look back and see how the country has changed. And I sound like a terrible conservative here, but you see the changes in culture that are occurring, not just in Australia, but the UK and the United States as well, in areas like that. And you think to yourself, sorry, that's not the world that I choose to live in. I want you to think sensibly, rationally. I want you to think nicely about other people and don't force your agenda on me. But all of this is going on before us and no one wants to blow the whistle and call it up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for like actual progress where it's like making society better. But this isn't. This is such a regression and it's just nonsense. And the quicker we can get rid of it and actually refocus on making society better and moving society forward will be fantastic. And just have a society based in reality and truth and freedom of speech and freedom of belief. And they're sort of, you can't fail with those principles. But with this, we're failing every day.
Keep at it, which is why I insist on grabbing you to get on the program as often as possible. Sally Grover, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Have a great Christmas.
Yeah, same to you too. Merry Christmas to you, Sally. Thank you. Yeah, the creator of women's chat site, The Giggle, former Hollywood scriptwriter and women's rights campaigner, Sally Grover, who's had a big year in terms of expressing her opinions on these issues, whether it's transgender, identity politics, or some of the women's rights forums that she's appeared in right around the country. It's been a big 2023, and we're very, very thankful that she gives us some of the time here on this program. Got to take a break and quite happy to take your calls. You should know the numbers by now. If you don't, I'll tell you, from the United States or Canada, it's 1-888-201-6425. From the UK, 033 002.